So let's get started. And having a block and maybe a belt, but it's not entirely necessary. So let's start lying down with the shoulders on the block. Feet together, knees out to the side, Baddha Konasana if you like, or you can just go with the legs straight out in front. So making your way there, shoulders on the block, and you can use the hands behind the head there to really lengthen that neck out and over. And then as you're ready, you can release the hands from the head, letting them land somewhere on the floor. Big inhale, really stretching out the ribs, and exhale, melting over the block. And making any little adjustments to the body there. And then bringing your attention to your breath. That little bit of effort as we inhale, and that upper chest tries to expand when it's already expanded up here on the block, so it needs to do a little more. And then drawing that breath all the way down to the lower belly. And then breathing back up and out. At the same time, feeling a little bit like that exhale goes down through the sitting bones or just above the sitting bones, depending on exactly where you're resting on the pelvis. So you have a little anchored down as well as that exhale traveling up and out through the top of the head. Couple more deep breaths here. And if you have those legs in Baddha Konasana, sliding them out to straight, pressing out through the heels, turning the legs to parallel. Take a few breaths, really reaching through the heels, pressing the backs of the legs into the floor. And then making your way up to sitting and coming up to that vertical line with the legs straight out in front. And then we'll continue coming forward. So if you want to use the belt there, if you have that, you can do that. But don't pull too hard, pulling gently with that belt. And inhale and exhale, just thinking of the length behind the legs, the length through the top of the head, not necessarily trying to get especially far. And then coming up, and we will go to Sukhasana, the crossed legs. And using those arms alongside, lengthening up, getting space between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. And slowly release with the arms. And then bringing those hands onto the knees, pouring down the sides of the neck off the tops of the shoulders. Inhale and exhale, finding that long and spacious spine. Sides going down, center line up. And just noticing your breath, making sure it's getting longer and smoother, more easeful. And then reaching out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips, breathing those arms up overhead. And then we'll take the cactus pull down, elbows wide, a little pressing back. And lengthen up. And then pulling the elbows straight down front, turning the palms forward, pulling those elbows straight down in front of you, kind of like chaturanga. And then extending them back up. Let's do that 2 more sets. Pulling wide and extend. And straight down in front. And lift once more. And then a big reach wide and down and coming forward and over. Breathing into the back of the body. And then coming up, so remembering which leg is in front. As we extend those legs once again right out in front of us in Dandasana. The legs can be right together, maybe a little bit apart. And coming forward, getting settled in there. So we're just going to do a short forward here. And for the moment, the long extended spine will be more important than the straight legs. So if those legs have a little bend, let them have a little bend so you can be very vertical and long through the top of the head. Feel the inner thighs squeezing toward each other as we take a twist to the right. Inhale and exhale. And then let's reach back with that right arm. So as you slowly lift it up, maybe the arm will get parallel to the floor, maybe not quite. Don't let yourself tip forward. Keep that left side long. And then let's reach the left arm forward, pulling wide, fingertip to fingertip, shoulder blades down, center line up. Big lift back up to the center, arms down, same thing to the left, twisting left. Inhale and exhale. Taking a few breaths here, using those arms and hands to stretch yourself a little more into the twist. We're going to lift the left arm up. So take the hand off,
Pause a moment, pressing that left shoulder blade down, keep the right side lengthening up. Maybe that left arm will reach up a little higher until it's parallel to the floor, or maybe not. The long spine, long parallel sides are more important than lifting that left arm up parallel to the floor. And then reaching forward with the right arm, pulling wide, fingertip to fingertip. Big lift back up to the center, arms down, and let's change our cross of the legs. And once again, coming forward and over. And let's walk the hands to the right diagonal. So we're just going to stay on the diagonal, not do the twist and open we sometimes do. Inhale and exhale, reaching out long to the left side, pulling that left sitting bone down and back. And then let's walk the hands over to the left. Keeping that nice deep and round breath going. And we'll feel that right sitting bone pulling down and back. And then back to the center. Coming up, unfurling that spine. Take a deep breath, arriving there back up on top of your sitting bones. And then we will come up in downward facing dog. Maybe using the wider feet as you come up for this first time. And walking the dog or anything else you want to do here. And then finding the best downward facing dog you can do at this moment. Nothing moving but the breath. Inhaling up to those sitting bones, exhale, pouring down the backs of the legs. And then coming down to child's pose very deliberately. Long extend back, take a deep breath. Sliding out onto your stomach into the Sphinx. Elbows pulling back, center line pulling forward, reaching back through the legs. And calming down, bringing the hands out wide across from the shoulders, standing on the pads of the fingers or maybe flat on the hand. as we ripple up here. Trying to get a little roll up in the upper back and then reaching out and over. Doing that twice more. Rolling up and down. And then bringing those arms in and peeling yourself up to downward facing dog. And let's take 3 deep breaths here in our downward facing dog. And then once again, coming down to child's pose very deliberately, sitting back. Take a breath. Same thing we did before. Sliding forward onto your belly into the Sphinx. And then coming down, arms out wide across from the shoulder, rippling up and 3, 2, and then 1 more. And bringing those hands in, coming back up to downward facing dog. And let's lift our right leg up, reaching long through the heel. Reaching a little bit longer. And through to the lunge. Then really feeling your one-legged plank along that left side, top of the head out the left heel. And bringing the left knee down, coming up in GentleVinyasa. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. And then letting the arms follow that circle of breath, coming around and all the way back up overhead. Namaste in front. And namaste into the floor, straightening up that left leg. And let's step back to the plank. Long and flat against the ceiling, and then through the vinyasa, any version you want. So I'm going to do the kneeling version. Knees down in kneeling plank. Chaturanga, feeling those elbows pull back, almost like those hands pull back. And upward facing dog or cobra, downward facing dog. We're pressing back through the legs, and then those legs press so much that we walk back to our feet at the back of the mat. Into Uttanasana, the standing forward bend. And then we're going to come literally halfway up parallel to the floor. Swoop the arms behind you, turn the palms up to the ceiling, and coming halfway up, long and flat. And then bend the knees, keeping that flat back, bring the arms out to the side. So we're not really the chair pose. We're flatter to the floor than the chair pose. But still pull back in that hinge of the hip joints. And then here with the bent knees, we're going to take a twist to the right. Inhale and exhale. Maybe those left fingertips touch the floor. And then coming back to that flat back with the arms out to the side, airplane arms. And then we will twist to the left, bringing the right fingertips down. And coming back to that airplane. And then straighten the legs. Let yourself release over. Deep breath. And let's come up to standing. Into the front body yawn. And then around to namaste. And taking a couple breaths here, Samasthiti. And then we'll make our way back over. Big inhale up, and exhale, diving over. Concave back, folding over. Walking up to downward facing dog. And if you want to do another through the vinyasa here, go ahead or just hold your downward facing dog. And then we'll lift the left leg up, reaching long through the heel, reaching a little longer. And through to the lunge. Pause a moment, really feeling that one-legged plank along the right side. And then bringing the right knee down, coming up in the Jayasana, the kneeling lunge. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. And then circling the arms, following that circle of breath. And namaste in front. And straightening up that right leg, stepping back to the plank, through the vinyasa. And downward facing dog, pressing back through the legs. And we'll once again walk back to the back of the mat. Into Uttanasana, the standing forward bend. And then lengthening out, coming up, flat back, lifting the arms up alongside with the palms facing the ceiling. Belly and ribs up against the spine. So you can do the bent knees again like we did before, or maybe try the twist with the straight legs. So let's bring the arms out to the side, airplane arms, and we'll twist left first. Inhaling and exhaling. So using some or a lot of bend in the knees if that's going to be more accessible for you. And then coming back to that airplane, twisting to the right. Coming back to the center, and then releasing over, letting that head and neck go. Maybe a little bend in the knees. And then we will come up to standing. Big front body yawn. Pressing the arms down. And let's circle the shoulders. Up the front, down the back. Twice more. And then going the other direction. Once more, front to the back to interlock the fingers behind. Lengthening up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. Lifting a little more. And coming over, pressing out through the hands.
And releasing the hands, continuing with a little concave back, folding over, walking back out to downward facing dog. And then really get a good press back through the legs. And you can go through another vinyasa here or not. And let's lift the right leg up, reaching long through the heel. And we'll go all the way to dog at the high fire hydrant, bending that right leg, lift a little more up through that. And then hover plank, bringing the right leg forward, long plank on that left side from the top of the head out the heel. And we'll swoop our right leg back up behind, through to the lunge, and coming up in the high lunge or else the warrior number one. A little feeling like you're pulling the feet toward each other, strong into the center and right up through the top of the head. And then just up and over, landing into the elephant rider. And let's slide. So shifting over toward the left, your back leg, straightening the right leg, and then shifting across and toward the right leg, straightening the left. And let's do that 2 more sets. Sliding left and sliding right. And back to the center. And then straightening up 3-pointed star. Rotating those legs into the hip joints. Lift a little more, turning the feet to parallel. And then let's come over into that flat back with wide arms, suspending there over the floor. If this is a little too much for the back, you can bring the arms back or put the hands on the hips here. For those who want more, you can try reaching the arms straight forward. One more breath, and then releasing over. Oh. And let's turn back to our right lunge. And stepping back to the plank, through the vinyasa, downward facing dog. And then we'll do that on the other side, but with a couple more things. All right, lifting the left leg up. And dog at the high fire hydrant. And then hover plank, left knee forward. Long straight line on the right side as best you can, thinking of that right side doing a plank. And then swooping that left leg back up behind you, through to the lunge, coming up in either the high lunge or the warrior one. And every breath deepening you into the pose.
Really feeling yourself in this shape. And then up and over, landing into the elephant rider. And sliding 3 sets, sliding to the right, the back of the mat. Sliding to the left, the front of the mat. And then we will finish with that, coming back to that elephant rider. And straightening up into the 3-pointed star. Turning the feet to parallel, and then we'll just bring the arms down to parallel. All right, so I'm going to not be the mirror here. I'm going to do my real left and right. And of course, the important thing is that you do each side. So let's rotate out our right leg, which is probably the leg toward the back of the mat. And coming into the warrior number 2. Inner thigh to the inner knee, tracking right over the front. And then looking straight forward, body forward over the long side of your mat. And we're going to come into that airplane flat back here in the warrior 2. So pull a little bit with the left arm because we like to shift right toward our bent leg as we do this. Pulling that warrior 2 a little wider as you extend over. Breathing, pressing up against the ceiling. Keeping your legs where they are, bringing the hands down to the floor. And then we'll take a twist to the left towards your back leg. Sinking that lunge down a little deeper if you can. And then bringing that left arm down. We're going to turn to the right lunge, facing the back of the mat. And then we're going to pull the left knee forward and under to come to sit in Matsyasana. So, hopefully, even if you turned your back on your screen, you can look back. And we've done this before. So we're sitting in Matsyasana with our right leg on top, long through the top of the head, and let's twist to the right. Inhale and exhale. Maybe bringing that left arm across the leg. And come back. And then we're going to reach around to the left and just sort of ever so gracefully disentangle those legs, curl that left foot back to the front of the mat, coming back into that wide leg forward bend. And then taking a few breaths, really arriving here, settling down. And
And then let's come up to standing from here, big front body yawn.
Pressing the arms down to parallel, and we'll do all of this on the left side. Let's rotate that left leg out 90 degrees. And into the warrior two. Inner thigh to the inner knee over the foot. Taking a few breaths here. And then looking straight forward, your body straight forward toward the long edge of the mat. And we're going to come into the flat back. Feeling a little bit more pull with that right arm so you don't shift to the left. And as you tilt over, flattening out, feel like that left sitting bone presses down more as well. Pulling the legs a little wider, pulling the arms a little wider. And then bringing those hands down to the floor. Try to keep that lunge. And we'll twist to the right toward the back leg. Trying to sink the left shoulder down, sink the left sitting bone down. And then bringing that right arm down, turning towards your left lunge, probably the front of the mat. Bringing that right knee forward and under into Matsyendrasana with the left leg on top. And then we'll twist to the left. Really enjoying the stretchiness of using the arms to deepen and support your twist now. After all those flat back, reaching out twists we've done. Maybe taking that right arm across. And back to the center. Reach around to the right and coming up. Curl your right leg to the back of the mat, coming back to the wide leg forward bend once again. And nice strong legs, pulling up the inner thigh, pouring down the outer, pouring over. And then let's turn back to our left lunge, which should be the front of the mat. And stepping back to the plank, through the vinyasa. And downward facing dog, or maybe you're going to linger in upward facing dog. And 3 deep breaths here in downward facing dog. And let's walk our hands back to the feet.
And coming up to standing into the front body yawn. And arms down, long through the top of the head, all the way around to Namaste. And then let's all make our feet hip distance apart so we have a little more space if they happen to be right together. And swooping the arms up into the front body yawn. And then lift a little more like a standing back bend, at least in intention. And take a little bend of the knees and then tuck that tailbone under. At the same time, you're trying to do kind of a back bend there. I know, it's not quite fitting together, but feeling that tucking under and then extend the legs, keeping that little press forward with the tailbone. And lots of core strength, lifting up, bringing those arms down. So what we don't want to happen, which sometimes happens, I'm really good at that, is our standing back bend. We stick our butt back and our chest forward, and it feels like we're doing such a big back bend. We want that pelvis pressed forward and under, like it's pressing against the floor there. So bringing the arms down if they're up there, take a deep breath. And we'll do that once again. Swooping the arms up, front body yawn. Let the knees bend, just a small bend, so you can feel that action of trying to press the tailbone forward, even though it won't move much. And then keep that press forward as you extend the legs again, pulling the sitting bones down into the top of the thighs. And a big lift up. Pressing those arms down. Few deep breaths here, smoothing everything out. And then let's come over into that flat back once more. Big lift up in the front body, yawn, maybe it's a little bigger now. Coming over, belly and ribs up against the spine as you tilt over. Lengthening that spine. You want it to be a little more challenging, you can try bringing the arms forward. And releasing over, letting the top of the head hang. Maybe a little shake of the head. No, a little nod. Yes. And then let's make our way back up to standing once again. Front body yawn. Pressing the arms down. And let's take a tree pose, Vrikshasana. So if you want to hold on somewhere, go ahead and move over by a wall or your desk, or sometimes just nearby in case you need it. Standing in Tadasana, bringing that right leg up. And lengthening out through the inner thigh, through the knee. Lengthening up through the top of the head. And feeling more of that flat backness. Make sure you're not back bending here. And bringing the right leg down. And then we'll do that on the left. Bringing that left leg up.
And bringing that left leg down. So if you're not at the back of your mat, moving back there where we came from. And let's swoop those arms up. Front body yawn. Finding maybe a little more back bend. Pulling the tailbone down and forward. And a big lift up and over, passing through the flat back, maybe feeling it just for a moment, and then continuing over. And concave back, folding over, walking out to downward facing dog. And we're going to make our way to the floor onto our belly. You can get there any way you want, or maybe lowering in chaturanga. Coming forward to the plank. And then lowering to the floor, pulling those elbows in and back, maybe bringing the knees down. Oh. Bringing the arms forward into the Sphinx. All right, so here we are on the floor where we can't bend the knees and tuck, but see if you can find that tucking action in the tailbone. A little bit more of that press the pubic bone into the floor action there. Reaching back through the legs. And coming down. Let's interlock the fingers behind, going for Salabhasana. All right, here to really press that tailbone down, which is going to mean lift the belly into the spine a little bit as we lengthen to left. Seeing what you can use from that standing back bend here. And then slowly release the hands, arms parallel to the floor. Is there anything you can use from the flat back things we were doing here? And coming down. And let's peel ourselves up off the floor, taking a few cats and cows. And we'll go to the pigeon, or maybe the figure four on the floor. So you can take the long road, where we'll fly to the pigeon, or you can just bring that right leg forward. So for the long rotors, let's come up and downward facing dog. And lifting the right leg up. So remember, at any point you can head to the pigeon. And let's bend that right knee, dog at the high fire hydrant. Maybe putting in a waterfall to the wild thing. And if you waterfall, we come back up. And then take the right knee to the right elbow into the pigeon. And then taking a few breaths in the cobra action here. And maybe that pelvis is kind of parallel to the floor, but can you do a little bit more draw in and down with the tailbone there? Even if nothing really moves, might be very subtle action inside. And coming forward and over.
And then calming up. And we will go to the other side. So long road, short road, medium road. All right, for you little long roaders, here we are in downward facing dog, lifting the left leg up. Bend the knee dog at the high fire. Maybe waterfall into the wild thing. And then making your way back, lifting that left leg, knee to the elbow, to the pigeon. And then take a few moments in that cobra action there. And see if you can find a little more down and forward with that tailbone, even if nothing moves. Maybe it's very small, maybe it's just an intention, maybe you're thinking about it, but it doesn't make any sense. Any of those options are fine. And then coming over. And then calming up. And we will make our way to Shavasana. Ah. Whoa. Getting settled in, finding a position for your arms. Inhale and exhale, letting go, sinking into the floor.
And breathing back into your body, into this room. Moving the fingers and toes, getting the circulation going. And stretching the arms up overhead. Bend the knees. And coming up to sitting. And sitting in any comfortable position with that long and spacious spine. Taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. And namaste. Thank you for coming.